All right. Hello and welcome to the Tactical Podcast, episode 3. It has been a very long time since we've done one of these. A very, very long time.
Yeah,
We've been
we're
on
back.
a massive hiatus. Longer than expected, but it is what it is, life and that. But yeah, so today is a special day because we are doing a preview of the Champions League final
Yeah,
of, the boys in black and blue. Well, technically it's turquoise in this case, but against the team in sky blue in Manchester. Yeah, that
yeah,
team. Yeah. So
yeah.
we'll have a quick natter about that, and I'll stick my head above the parapet and see what happens.
No, yeah, definitely. Look, you've had a mad season yourself. I think personally, with Morocco getting to a semi-final and um, Inter Milan getting to a Champions League final. So, how's the season gone for you? Sort of, obviously, I think you've had sort of mixed emotions about the season for Inter Milan as a whole. Just give us like a quick summary of how it's gone and what your thoughts are, sort of the season as a whole.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind, a roller coaster, as they say. I mean, Inter Milan in particular started a bit, bit hit and miss, a bit slow, trying to find themselves, I guess.
Yeah.
And then since January they had a bit of a, they managed to beat Milan and win the Super Cup and build a bit of momentum, lost a bit of momentum, and then they regained it as towards the end. Especially when towards the latter stages of the Champions League. They've played relatively well, I must say. Beyond my wildest dreams, but certain people did believe that Inter would reach the Champions League final. I didn't actually expect it, but now that we're in it, I believe that we can actually do something about it. I mean, it's really a typical, you know, black and white. What do you call it? A bit of a topsy-turvy situation because in the league we've been very poor. We've lost 12 games, and in the Champions League we've blown teams out of the park. So it's a sticky one. I mean, it does remind me actually, to be fair, of Liverpool in their Champions League run under Rafa Benitez in 2004-2005 when they were fifth in the league and ended up winning the Champions League. So although we managed to finish third and get Champions League football, winning 2 domestic trophies and the Champions League would be nice. It would be a nice treble of sorts. So, usually it's how it ends rather than, it's always the destination rather than the journey. So ultimately, if we get what we've been not really expecting, to be fair, if we get it, then you know what, it's worth it. So that's how it is.
So what you rate in the season, sort of, let's say you don't win it, is it a good season still?
If we don't win it, I think it's still a decent season. I mean, last season we finished second when we should have really won the league, and we won 2 domestics, and we got out in the round of 16. This season we've done a lot better in the Champions League, but we've done a lot worse in the league, in the Scudetto. So I don't know whether that balances it out, or whether the Champions League has a greater weighting. But I would say it's like a marginal. If we didn't win it, it would be like a marginal step in the right direction. Positive.
Yeah, that's really really interesting. Obviously, I don't follow sort of Inter or Serie A as much as you do. But just looking from an outside perspective, I'd think sort of, obviously, without your input, without speaking, if I didn't speak to you, so it looks like a good season. I mean, third place, granted, maybe you should be up there challenging, but a Champions League final, I don't think anyone would have predicted that sort of at the start of the season. And sort of if you're going to win it, I mean, it's a 10 out of 10 season, really. But coming on to the big game then, the big game, sort of 90 minutes or potentially 120 minutes of sort of gut-wrenching football. Sort of, so what's going to happen, man? How do you think it's going to go? What's the key tactical sort of matchups, and how would you set up Inter Milan sort of to counteract the City team?
Well, it's just a shame that City, I think, have evolved to their complete form, to their final form. It's just a shame because I think this is the best City side I've ever seen, really. Maybe
Just butting in there, just really quickly.
Hmm.
So yeah, do you think this is the best City side?
Yeah, I do.
Across the last sort of
100%. Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think Pep's mastered it now. I think initially he was struggling with getting the players to buy into his philosophy, and then obviously he brought in that kind of Barcelona style, and then obviously introduced the inverted fullbacks, and all of those had problems with defending counter attacks, especially in transition, and now he's mastered it by really effectively having 3 centre backs, 4 towards the end, kind of giving up on the idea of having fullbacks, and then having their key player, I think Stones, really playing as a centre mid, a centre back and centre defensive mid, so that kind of hybrid position. And yeah, especially against United yesterday, he was absolutely outstanding. My goodness me, yeah. And it's just a shame that they've come to that state now, at coinciding with Inter's Champions League run, really. Ultimately, I think the battle will be in midfield, as it was yesterday. And I've always said this box midfield is always it's a strength and it's always a weakness. The idea is really you want to narrow that box and collapse it and make it as flat as possible. You don't want to make sure that they control that zone. And the way to do it is, ideally, you would need to have. You don't. I wouldn't. Well, Inter don't do it, so it's a kind of ideal. But I wouldn't press too far. Too up high front foot. I'd rather station those 2 centre forwards like in Martinez and Dzeko, in my opinion, who should start rather than Lukaku. Just station them blind side of Rodri and Stones, and try and just cut passing lanes really and be tight on them. And ideally, you don't want to be dragged out by them, but they don't have that much mobility in that they stretch out wide or whatever. It's more that you have that from Gundogan or De Bruyne or Silva. So ideally, you want to make sure you're just firm on that, and allow City to circulate out wide, and then you can luckily, because we play with wing backs and we have wide centre midfielders, we can then just double up on them and close them down. So that's the idea. It will be a mid block, but more of a lateral mid block. So we'll be pressing out a bit more wide, but we'll let them have more of the ball in their own half. And then ultimately, you need Brozovic, Hakan Çalhanoğlu, and Nicola Barella to be really in top form, really, to deny City from building up through the middle. And obviously, as I said, if you station the wide midfielder the central midfielder slightly wider and have Brozovic slightly deeper, so they don't allow you block Haaland from coming in, I think that's also an ideal way. Station out wide in half space is obviously to help support overloads out wide, but also to then come inside if somehow City manage to break the first line of pressure. So I think it's suited to us in a way, and we have to use that to our advantage. But this is the best City as well, and City can, like they did against United, they're very good at getting out of pressing traps. So short, quick short passes, quick combination play, and it's going to be very difficult. I mean, I saw that with Grealish yesterday, and obviously you have Grealish and others dropping in and providing support as well, making themselves available for if passing lanes are closed down. So it's going to be very difficult. But if Inter sticks with their man marking structure and make it a bit more aggressive, I think, and leave it out wide and kind of push City out wide, I think they can manage to get, I wouldn't say dominance or some sort of territorial dominance, but they will be able to have some sort of control of the box and make the box a lot smaller. I think when you have the box too wide and you're able to have each one controlling each of the half spaces, each of the zones, it becomes very complicated because they're all excellent on the ball and they all are able to create space and time with the ball. So it's going to be a sticky one, but we shall see how it goes. But ultimately, our system is suited to it, but we have to make some slight tweaks.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, especially the man marking thing. I actually think that might be the wrong way to go about it, just because I think United actually tried that the weekend, and sort of you had Fred sort of picking up De Bruyne, well, meant to be, and then De Bruyne essentially just playing right wing and telling Fred, "Come mark me then," and leave a big hole in the middle. And I think you saw Fred sort of a bit of a conundrum as to whether he should stay in the middle, go out and mark De Bruyne. So I think they've got the sort of players to twist it around, and then what is Barella going to follow De Bruyne out wide and then leave the centre with 2, and then it's a very, very tricky. I actually think maybe just sitting off and playing zonally and ensuring down the overloads might be the difference. And so what you'd go with Lukaku, you go with Dzeko over.
You don't want to leave, and what happened with United? and I think Inter they generally man mark anyway. United they're trying to man mark, but they're not great man markers. I think Inter are one of the best man marking teams in Europe, in my opinion, especially in midfield. And ultimately, the issue with if you leave it zonally, you're going to have too many free players. And I think Leeds is a good example. They left too many. I know Leeds is qualitatively a lot worse team, but they sat off and they allowed City to really have a field day shooting from deep and creating chances out, switching the play and creating chances around the box. So the idea is that you don't want to leave anyone free. And obviously Gundogan was the one that was left free yesterday, and hence why he had managed to find himself scoring so early. Is obviously because, as you say, Fred is not particularly a disciplined player. He's great pressing on the front foot, but when it comes to man marking, he gets easily dragged out. Happened against Liverpool. It's a good example in that result, the 7-0. He gets dragged out easily, and obviously Casemiro ends up trying to cover his space. So yeah, I think Inter they are dynamic. Obviously, as I said, if you have like the likes of Dzeko, who is excellent playing between the lines and dropping in deeper, providing extra support, making himself an out ball. Martinez pressing out wide, making himself available in the channels. I do think it is possible. I mean, obviously, if City break the press, they break the press. That's how it is. Sitting out deep. I think Inter this season, they tend to play better when they're in I wouldn't say in a low to mid block rather than in a low block completely. I think that's what we realize.
100%. Like I hear what you're saying, but it's just I think man marking is good, but against a team like as fluid as City, where you don't know where Gundogan's going to be most of the time. He could be more advanced than Haaland, or running in as a third man running the box, or playing deep, and De Bruyne right wing, centre mid, and Bernardo Silva picking up holes and positions. I think, like for example, if it was a more stagnant team, like you can man mark Haaland. I think if a Cherby sits on Haaland, that's doable. But I just think with the fluidity of the rest, like John Stones coming into midfield, are going to say, how do you man mark that? Do you know what I mean? Like, and it's just with Inter, I just worry a little bit about legs in that midfield. Like, very good midfield, but they're not the most athletic mid. Like Mkhitaryan, Çalhanoğlu, and Barella. Barella is an athlete, but Çalhanoğlu and Mkhitaryan, not really. Like, I don't think that they have. I don't know. I can't see them doing it for a long time. I think they'll be gassed.
I think that's the issue. That's the main issue. Is actually can they sustain this? And playing the man marking game is very tiring, it's very tedious, and it's a lot of hard work. And I don't think they can do it. So they might do a hybrid of zone, as you say, dropping deep and then countering, and then and then man marking. I think they could maybe flip it and start off zonal, just keep it, contain it, and then when there's a game, a couple of minutes to go, then they might man mark and create more passing options available for the counter attack. So I don't know. Mkhitaryan for me is actually a very big loss because he's the player I think in that team. Barella maybe.
Oh, is Mkhitaryan not playing? Sorry,
I think he's injured, so I'm assuming that he's injured. Yeah.
So who comes in? Is it Brozovic?
No, it'll be Çalhanoğlu on the left and Brozovic in the middle, and then Barella on the right. The big issue with Mkhitaryan is that he's I think he's more of an 8. I know he plays for Armenia and as a number 10 and Dortmund days as well, but I think he's excellent at creating distances between the space and creating those passing options, but also just providing that support in attack. Really, he makes subtle runs. He's not like a Çalhanoğlu. He's just going to ping balls or he's just going to carry the ball. He's just there, making himself available, creating this. He's a very intelligent spatial player, make himself available, denying. Also, he's also great at pressing as well. First line of pressure as well. I think he would have given. As he was playing on the left-hand side, I think he would have given Stones a tough time. I mean, United fans, some of them do look at the positives regarding yesterday, that they contained Rodri to a certain extent. And I think that was part of Pep's plan. I think in that system where you do man mark, ultimately a player has to be a sacrifice in that. One player is going to be pressed more than another. And I think he said it's better for Rodri to take the bullet and leave Gundogan free. And I think that's the issue in this man marking system, that you try and block all these passing lanes and deny players progressing with the ball, but ultimately there is going to be a free player. And the only thing that works for Inter is if they increase the tempo a bit more. They have the ball, they switch, they have the most crosses in the European top 5 leagues, I believe, and which is particularly switches of play. I think if they do switch the play a lot more and make and play into spaces, into the channels where there's a player available, I do think they can give it a tough time, especially between in that 3-2-4-1. You have the right winger, the space between the right wing and the right sided centre back, there is a lot of space that can be targeted. So we shall see. I mean,
Yeah.
if Guardiola is thinking of all these possibilities, he might add an extra centre back. We might ask Stones, instead of to playing up and down, he might ask him to kind of cut across, so play diagonal.
Yeah, I think sort of my conundrum is okay, Inter go man marking. What if Stones just steps into midfield?
Yeah,
Then you've got a free man there. Do you know what? Does Dzeko come back with him?
yeah,
Lautaro?
I could
Do
see that happen.
you think
Dzeko,
Dzeko
yeah.
has the legs for that though to run around with Stones for
No,
the whole
no,
game?
not to run around, but just to more of a
Do you know
more.
what I
It would
mean?
be
It's
more.
it's
I
a
think it'd be more zonal, just there to just block more as a block
yeah.
than
I
a
think that's the only sort of conundrum I'm sort of well, not the only, but in terms of if you go man marking, that's the only thing. As I said, the fluidity is so. Um,
yeah. I mean,
City has the most fluid team in
don't
the world,
don't get
so
me wrong. Inter Milan are very
100%.
fluid themselves. They're quite positional.
No, no, we'll get onto Inter 100%. We'll get onto their
Well,
strengths.
yeah,
Um,
lots of
who's
rotation. So I
so
don't know, but you're
yeah.
right. It is an issue, and it's yet to be solved.
So who would you say? Obviously, City are a very talented team. They got world class players across the whole shop. But who's the one player that Inter need to stop on
One
on
player.
um on the 10th? Who's the guy that they need to stop from having a good game?
The problem is people will probably jump and say Haaland, but even when he doesn't have a good game,
I don't think it's Haaland, but yeah,
yeah, a lot
genuinely,
of
I
people
don't.
say, "Oh, Haaland because of the goals," and he can get
Yeah,
easy. But
listen,
I don't.
I might get a bit of hate for this, but I think if you stop the if you stop the supply to Haaland, um, he's limited. I'll say that.
No, but I think he does cause problems, though. I think
He does, he does.
especially Arsenal's a very good example. He just drops in and
Yeah.
then De Bruyne just takes his place. I think really this is a tough one. Uh, yeah, it's hard to pick. I can't put it down. Okay, if I was to put it down, obviously it'd be De Bruyne. I would probably say as
Yeah,
as a creator. Yeah, as a
that's
creator.
interesting.
Yeah.
That's
In
interesting.
fact, that's the
Go on.
first one that came to mind so instinctively. But for me, Bernardo Silva is another one that I've always said that I think he's one of the smartest players in the world.
Hmm.
Even if he
Yeah.
hasn't got a good game, he'll just move somewhere else. I really don't know. People will probably say Stones and Rodri.
What about Gundogan though? Because listen, Gundogan, last 2 months, Gundogan's been City's best player.
Yeah,
Every single important goal he scored for them.
trying to get that
But
contract, isn't he?
yeah, brother. Look, Arsenal, he was absolutely brilliant. Everton in the 1-0, absolutely brilliant flicked goal.
Mm.
A cup final. Last season, he 2-1 down Aston Villa on the last day. He scored 2 goals to get them out the sort of mire. He's been absolutely brilliant for them, and I think he's caused so many problems with his sort of third man runs into the box. I think he's been so underrated. I think De Bruyne's been very good, very, very good. But for me, I think got to find a way to deal with Gundogan. Got to find a way to deal with him.
Yeah,
I think
current form, yeah, probably. I'm just
he's
thinking about it on paper, though. It's
he's
just
been City's best player in the last 2 months for me. If
yes.
Gundogan did not play the last 2 months, they don't. I don't think they win the league. Um, and they struggle a lot more in that cup final. I think because I don't
I
think
mean,
they
they
were
were
good.
playing in second gear, to be fair, in that cup
They
final.
they were, but you know what it is? It's I think people come with the perception that City were just in second gear, and it's not easy to just come out of second gear. Like
Mm.
you can't just switch it on all the time. Like I saw it when Liverpool won the league. Like we sort of went into a bit of a low, and we couldn't get back to that form before we won it. And I think what will play into Inter's hands is obviously City are very motivated to win this, but they've sort of won two Premier League, and they put a lot of legs and energy into that. And Pep was saying they drank all the beer in Manchester and all of that stuff. And sort of, I saw them against United, and they that good? I think a better team, which I think Inter are a better team than Manchester United. A more
Mm.
devastating team causes them problems.
I mean, it's
Hundred
an
percent.
indictment of United's form, especially against big
Yeah,
teams.
going
They
forward, I think.
don't even
Yeah,
need to be that good, personally.
yeah. I thought United are quite. Apart from Rashford, they're quite. Inept going forward.
I thought Garnacho was ironically our best player,
No,
but
no, he was obviously off the bench, but he's a young kid, so you
yeah,
can't
put
put
the pressure
all
on.
that pressure on him. But obviously, Inter Milan have Lautaro, who's sort of revived himself from the World Cup form, with Dzeko, who you know class is permanent, form is temporary, as they say. They're brilliant, most underrated player of the last 10 years.
Yeah,
They've got Çalhanoğlu, who free kicks, set pieces, and uh, long shots.
yeah.
Absolute. Same with Brozovic,
I
Barella
must
with his.
I have to give credit to Hakan Çalhanoğlu as a deep line playmaker. He's had a second coming really. I mean, he's been quite incredible. Probably one of our best players, I have to be honest, this season. I mean, I was surprised he wasn't nominated as one of the best three Italian midfielders. I was surprised. Barella was great, but he's been quite patchy as well. I think Lobotka should have had it, to be fair. But I
Yeah.
thought
Okay.
Hakan really has been one of the most. Him and even Mkhitaryan has been very good, I must say. But Hakan in particular has
Okay.
really improved, especially in
Yeah.
place of Brozovic. So,
So you're saying De Bruyne is the player that Inter have to pay the most attention to,
I don't know.
and
It's
that's
really
lock in.
difficult. I can't. It's just the first one that came to mind.
Yeah.
There's if you stop one, then there's always one available.
Yeah. Exactly.
I think Darmian. I don't know whether Darmian will stop. I think Darmian is very important. I think he's very good at holding, pocketing players. He's got a record of pocketing players, Leao in particular. Dumfries running he's basically, I see Dumfries as more of a midfielder, basically playing as a wing back. Basically, he literally makes box to box runs and he provides a lot of support in that midfield. Whether he'll be drawn in really and provide more support in against City's build up play, I don't know. Especially deep build up. Would he even be one of joining the front line of pressure? I don't know. I mean, Dumfries is an interesting player off the ball. So
who's Inter Milan's most important player in the final? If there's one player you'd say, if sort of he has to have a good game for us to win this,
has to have a
who
good
would
game.
it be? He has to be 10-10 for us to win this game.
Has to have a good game. They all do, to be fair.
Of course. But who would you say is your most important player? Like the guy you're sort of hanging your hopes on?
I would, in an ideal world, I'd say Brozovic, but I think it's a bit too much to ask him to have a good game. He's just not at that level anymore. So it's just it would be just silly for me to expect him. I mean, he'll do a job as he does, and he's excellent, especially with the less physical aspects, I'll say, especially holding the ball, press resistance. He's still got that. I just think, he gets overrun quite a lot, concedes a lot of fouls. His timing is slightly off. It's not as it used to be, and that's more of a physical thing. I think he just can't do it anymore at that level. But he's still a brilliant player. I think he has to have a good game. I mean, he did score a beautiful goal against Torino yesterday, and he seems to be coming to form. So I think it's important that he does do well. I will probably say Martinez has to play very well. He's going to have he's going to have a big shift.
Okay.
He's not. I mean, people say he's a star boy because he's got all the goals, etc. And he's a talent and etc. He's not really a centre forward for me. He's more of a second striker or a false centre forward. Someone who's just all over the place, really harasses the opposition, and I think he plays off better. He plays better when he's off someone rather than leading the line himself personally, like a Lukaku or Dzeko. But Dzeko even plays at times even deeper, so he will have a big shift, leading the pressure, rotating with Dzeko, playing out wide, providing support with the wing backs, and so I don't know, make himself available in the channels. It will have to be Martinez for me. Barella, Barella, whether he has a good or bad game, he tends to get subbed off quite early these days. So I don't know. It doesn't seem it's not part of the manager's long-term thinking when it comes to playing the full 90 or 120. Often because of fouls, but often because Barella can get quite he can get too, let's say, excited. He can get too involved. He likes to be all over the place. I'd say Martinez for me if I had to pick Martinez. The centre backs have to be good. The centre backs have to be good, but they have been, I must say, quite resolute. So I'm not too worried. I mean, a 3-against-1 shouldn't be a problem, or a 3 against.
It's the illusion of one.
Yeah, but the thing is, even when City play in a 3-2-4-1 becomes a 3-2-5, you would expect the wing backs when they pin back, it should be 5v5, and I do expect them to win their 1v1s. To be fair, so. Whether it's by himself or City's front five, I think Inter should be okay with that one, personally.
Yeah, no, I'm not too worried about out wide. I think Inter have the fullbacks, sort of the defensive capabilities to deal with a Grealish. Although Grealish has been very good for City this year, and he sort of revived his sort of Aston Villa form where he's just winning fouls, going past people, and being a nuisance. I sort of, if Darmian does play or not as much Dumfries, but if Darmian does play, I expect him to quieten Grealish, not
Yeah,
fully, not fully. Obviously, Grealish is
he'll
still
be
very
on his
talented.
side, so I would be expecting him to do a good
Yeah,
job. So,
hopefully, and Demarco and Bastoni and Bernardo Silva should, obviously Bernardo Silva is unplayable as peak, but you're hoping that with Inter's five at the back, they do have some sort of leverage in that
I
sense.
think I think what I can see, because Grealish, I think he plays on the left, and obviously Dumfries is on the right. It would be a kind of a double up job. Either two centre backs are onto him, or a wing back and the right and Barella will be onto him. But on the left hand side, I think it'll become an extra centre back. So they'll do what the teams are doing nowadays. A wing back goes forward or a full back goes forward, and then
Yeah,
the rest move across and become a full
yeah,
centre back. I can see Inter doing that even with four centre backs. I mean,
yeah,
it's something that is not novel if they do something like that, especially to
yeah,
just block those half spaces, just
definitely.
deny De Bruyne from you know finding him, making himself available, or finding passing options there, or even making
100%,
runs
yeah,
there.
100%. No, for me, listen. It's not a Turkish bias. So I've had my sort of thoughts about Çalhanoğlu, especially sort of for the national team, where he's sort of, I don't think he's taken on that talisman role that his ability dictates he should. So he's by far the most sort of the best Turkish player in terms of ability, but he doesn't show it as much for Turkey.
He seems to be
But
a confident player, doesn't he?
yeah, I think he's got to be in a system where I'd say more system where he has the right players around him to make the most of his attributes. I think for Inter he has that. At Turkey he doesn't. Um,
Well, there
that's
was
a
really no.
topic. Yeah, that's a
Well, with
topic for a different day.
I know, but with Brozovic gone, he really had to fill that void. He didn't have much of an option. Otherwise, there is
Yeah,
Asllani.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
still not
No,
level, so he
yeah, but
had
I
to.
think 100%.
Mkhitaryan's kind of marked his spot on the left, to be fair, so he has
Mm,
to. And to be fair, he's done a fantastic job. He doesn't necessarily drop deep and make himself available like a Brozovic, but when he carries the ball, he does do something with it, and he's great at joining. Sits into when they under Çalhanoğlu when they press, they have the front two pressing, and then Çalhanoğlu and Mkhitaryan and Barella, they kind of coordinate a press together, a second line of press, which is quite intimate, quite immediate after the Inter's first line of pressing. But obviously with Brozovic there, you don't have that. So he's a lot deeper, and you
yeah,
have to have Dzeko dropping in instead. So it's a different proposition. But
no,
in the
100%.
low to mid block, it might work better in that way.
No, no, 100%. And I think he's very important in the sense that I think if Inter are to stand a chance, I think set pieces are a
Yeah.
big factor in it. And obviously, he's a very good set piece taker. I think that's one way for Inter
Mm.
to nick a goal, grab a lead, and things of that nature. I think in transition is very important. I don't think Inter can just hoof it from the back and
No, no, no.
let's see
I mean,
recycle possession.
they switch a lot.
Yeah,
Demar is excellent at pinging a ball. I think he's
ex-
leading assists with Vinicius. So
exactly, because otherwise City will just suffocate
yeah, yeah,
inside. Take chance on chance on chance, and the ball keeps coming back, and you can't concentrate for 90 minutes. So
and
they need the outlet.
the problem with the City team, they don't press all at as they don't press that aggressively as they
Mm,
used to. Sometimes they can
yeah,
actually drop back and let the team have the ball and just block the spaces. They did that against United a couple of times, and
exactly. No,
yeah, it's very
100%.
difficult.
And yeah, and if Inter, I think, are to play through City, it comes through sort of Çalhanoğlu, who I
Yeah,
think, and going on to your point, finding Lautaro in
yeah.
behind, sort of allowing him to get onto the passing behind. I don't think Lautaro is a player where he's going to create something by himself.
No, no, no. He's not that kind of
Yeah,
guy.
yeah. Sort of correct me if I'm wrong, but sort of I think, but if sort of Çalhanoğlu, Brozovic, or Vela can get him into space and turn the City defense around, I think that's how. And the midfielder calm and composed on the ball, no panicking, sort of playing out the back, switching play a lot to the fullbacks. I think that's how Inter find joy and catch City sort
It
of on
will
the
be a
break.
lot of direct balls, also switches in play. Inter do that quite well, actually. I think that's one of their strong suits in possession, which is nice to see, actually, especially
Yeah.
just breaks up the opposition's team structure and
Mm.
shape. So they will do that a lot, and they use the midfield very well as well. They do it very well. The midfield do it well in terms of creating those spaces so that it allows Dimarco to switch. Often they
Yeah.
pick, he'll pick probably he either will cut in and
Mm.
pass it to Brozovic, and then Brozovic will do a quick one-time pass across to the other side, or it might just be a quick direct diagonal. So it's
Yeah.
very interesting how I'm interested in this patterns of play that Inter will have when they have those opportunities, because it's very interesting, because they do have many ways of actually building up. It's actually it's not just a necessary defensive team. It's not a Conte team, to be fair. They're a lot more progressive in possession. They can do they still play with overlapping centre backs, for example, which is obviously what we know here from Chris Wilder with Bastoni in particular. Although he doesn't overlap out wide nowadays, he more overlaps in the half spaces. The wing back will drop in, lure City's opposition. I don't know who would be, maybe one of the centre backs or whatever, or one of the wingers. Then he's available in the half space. Will then drop, do those kind of clipped balls into the box and see, who will win those duels. Usually they're very good at second balls as well. So even if the first one doesn't work, second balls they tend to win it, because the midfield run in quite quickly and make themselves available, or try and support the first ball delivery. So we'll see. I mean, there's a lot of things, lots of ways going about, and that's why I'm quite confident. But I mean, Inter's physicality ultimately will make a difference, and they're a proposition that I don't think Guardiola's system has faced yet.
Yeah, no. Okay, moving on. Sort of, this is sort of in light of the Europa League final. So, and the controversy on the penalties there. So, it's 0-0. Inter have kept up Man City for 120 minutes. Let's say they've quietened De Bruyne, Silva, Gundogan. City very frustrated. They haven't found a way through. Who are your first 5 penalty takers for Inter Milan?
Martinez, I think Lukaku.
And in order, please. In order.
Martinez, Lukaku, Çalhanoğlu, Barella, and Di Marco.
So no centre backs.
No.
So in the centre backs in your phone.
No. If you don't have centre backs, penalties. Maybe Bastoni will be 6. I don't know. I don't know. He's got a lot of power, but yeah, I think that one's an unfortunate one. I know it's been much derided here in the UK, but Mourinho expected those centre backs to score. I think Mancini in particular, I think he's got a track record with penalties or something, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I don't know. To be fair, in that situation, I think he took off Pellegrini, who's their leading set piece taker, Dybala, who's an excellent set piece taker himself, taking 2 of them off very early. And they don't really have anyone else. I mean, but Belotti actually, he's also got a good record with penalties for Torino. So again, I don't know why he took. I mean, Dybala wasn't meant to play for that long, according to Mourinho. Should have played for only 20 to 30 minutes. But it is a bizarre situation. I still don't get it. I try to justify with the record, but it doesn't matter at the end of the day. You just need to. It's a one-off kick, so you just have to take it, and that's it. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe because Bono doesn't know. Maybe doesn't have much intel on this.
Is Mandanda good at penalties?
Mandanda.
Sorry.
Onana,
yeah. Is Onana good at penalties?
Is Onana good at saving penalties? On the top of my head, I think he's pretty decent. Yes, I think he's pretty decent. I think he's saved a couple. So yes, from what I remember, yeah, I think he's not Mike Mannion, unfortunately, but he's decent. I think, and he's not. I don't know about Ederson's record when it comes to saving penalties, but I think I can see it going into sudden death, definitely, for sure. Although City's record of penalties are not that great either, to be fair. I'm not going to lie. I mean, other than Haaland, I think they've always had a problem with that. And De Bruyne.
No, they have 100%. They've always had I
haven't seen Inter in a penalty shootout in a very long time, especially under Inzaghi. I haven't seen him. Even in Conte, I haven't seen him. So I don't know what they're actually like generally. But Martinez has a record of missing a few, to be fair. Yeah, so I don't know, but he generally is decent. I mean, he's the leading penalty.
Okay, so cool. That's the preview. So I have to get a score prediction from you. How's it? What is the score prediction?
Because I want to take one into account for the extra time. I think it could go to extra time. So
I want one.
One prediction. Okay,
one prediction.
I think this is where this podcast dies.
And you can be as biased as you want.
Yeah, it will be. I just believe it. I think it will be a new a reinvention of the Mourinho masterclass in 2010. So it's an Inzaghi masterclass inspired by Mourinho. It's a 2.0. I think I could see Inter winning maybe 2-1. I can even see City scoring early. And what's the good thing is that in the last 3 finals, Inter have conceded first and they managed to win. So they are not like United, unfortunately. They are comeback kings. So they do find a way of getting themselves into the game. I can see City scoring quite early, as they tend to do, especially under this new system where they just want to get blitz teams and try and suffocate them.
Yeah.
I can see it maybe 2-1 to Inter. I don't think it'll be a high-scoring game. Hopefully it'll be better than the Europa League. But if it does go into extra time, I think Inter will win on penalties. That's what I'm going to say.
Okay. Yeah. So you're going
2-1 to Inter.
2-1 to Inter.
Yeah.
Okay. Oof. I'm going to go 2-2 and Inter win on penalties.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
I think it's going to be a very good game. To be fair, I think, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope Inter do win. I really do want Inter to win.
Yeah, it'll be nice. I mean, it'll be a great way to cap off the season, and also, just a treble of sorts. It's not a proper treble, obviously, because we didn't win the league, but you know, it's good enough, I guess. So yeah, we shall see. But there's, I'll just say to people, especially people who don't tune into Serie A, just be warned, because Inter can throw up surprises, and they're not as bad as you think they are. It's not a given. I think this is the toughest game for Pep.
So, and on that warning, we'll cut this
bombshell.
On that bombshell. Sending for Pep Guardiola and them, man. We'll cut this podcast here. We'll cut the.
You never know. Pep Guardiola might come back with a new, hair plant. Hair transplant.
Maybe.
You
might need it after if Inter do win, but yeah. So
he doesn't have a wig, but if anyone's asking, that's he's not. He might look like Conte or dressed like
Conte allegations.
I'm just saying, apparently.
So yeah. So that's
have to address these misconceptions from here. So
that's been the sort of tactical insight preview into this Manchester City Inter Milan Champions League final with an Inter Milan fan. Yeah, I think it's going to be a really interesting game, and thank you everyone for tuning in. Expect more to come. We've got a lot planned sort of over the summer for sort of content, sort of without football, sort of drafts and best 11s of all time and things like that, where we'll be debating and talking about things like that. So definitely tune in. We're obviously the content's been a bit lackadaisical over the last few months. Obviously, that's personal reasons for some people and other factors, but the pod is here to stay. Sort of, we're staying with this podcast. We love talking about football, so why not put on a podcast?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it then. Thank you very much, Zach, and that's been the Tactical Podcast.
And don't forget to share, like, and comment, please, and subscribe as well. That'll be really helpful. So yeah, thank you.